Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.
UMAR, AHMED, IFL TV, MTK Global. Adam Smith's getting his Nando's in. I'm getting my Wagamamas in. So we'll keep this short and sweet, all right?
Don't tell my kids I'm having Nando's because they will be going mad. They love their Nando's.
Okay, Adam. Joshua Buatsi, 14 months out. Great to see a potential superstar of the sport back in the ring.
That's what you said, potential superstar. You know, I think when he turned professional, we'd all seen what he did in Rio. He's very likeable. He's very humble. He's very down to earth. And he's very good. You know, he reminds a lot of us, or certainly in his early, fights of, really good young sort of almost old-fashioned fighter. There was a bit of, Dan compare him to Evander Holyfield, of course, because he's got a long way to go in his journey. But he's got the poise and the sort of ring intelligence and the power too. He's got a good mix about him. Obviously he's only at a level at the moment, and obviously he's missed out a lot in the last 400 days or so since he's been out of the ring. Momentum's gone with him. He was our one to watch in 2019, again last year, or earlier this year, sorry. How long is he a one to watch? We know how good we think he could be. Let's see it now. So he needs to fight. He needs to fight regularly. I think Chalic is a good opponent. I think he's unbeaten, so he's expected to come through, obviously, Buatsi. But he needs to, he probably needs to shed a little rust. He needs to sharpen those tools. And in an unbeaten fighter against him, or someone who's a good amateur, Alan Bavic talks very well about him. He's come with his own ambition. And of course, he'll be a big underdog, won't he, Chalic? But, he's an undefeated fighter. An undefeated fighter is a dangerous fighter. And that's what will bring the best out in Buatsi. So yeah, but the big thing with Joshua is I'd like to see him fight regularly, and it's so difficult in these turbulent times. But if there's anything, it's just sort of keeping him busy. I think that's the key, because keeping him busy, keeping him on the platforms, keeping him talked about is very important, especially in this stage we are in the world at the moment. And his division is huge, isn't it? You've got the domestic to world sort of triumvirate in Anthony Yarde and Callum Johnson, and you've got Beterbiev and Bivol, and so much happening in the world scene that you want to see Buatsi mix with these guys. So yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. But for me, the biggest thing is keeping him busy.
Aside from Fury Joshua, I'd say Buatsi Yarde is the biggest fight that can be made in this country, and also it's rare to see such demand for a fight where there isn't bad blood in this. It's just purely two brilliant fighters who we'd love to see in the ring, and there isn't any bad blood, but so much demand for it still.
Listen, there's a lot of great fights to make, aren't there? And I think on Fight Camp we showed some of those. Terry Harper and Natasha Jonas. You could have that in a rematch. You could have one of those fights in Katie Taylor. Add Chantel Cameron into the mix. There's so many great fights you can make with the women, and that's just starting with them. The men, there's huge amounts, and I really personally looking forward to Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. Yeah. I know it's on the other channel, but it's a great fight, and I'm frustrated like everybody that hasn't happened. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think of all those fights that Eddie and Frank were sort of half communicating about, well, certainly Frank put the offer out, didn't he, that let's get these big fights made between the stables. I think that's top of my list. I'd love to see Buatsi Yarde. Have great affection for both of them. Anthony Yarde's been through a terrible year, and he's shown a huge amount of resilience to get back in the ring and look so good the other night. And huge respect to Yarde. I want to see him in with Buatsi. I want to see Buatsi in with Yarde. It's a great fight. Don't forget Callum Johnson. I think he gets missed because he's up north in Lincolnshire somewhere. He's up there, and he sort of keeps himself to himself a bit. But I think he's a great fighter, and I think he's shown against Beterbiev. What a performance that was out in the States. Don't forget about him. So I think any one of these three. Joshua's talked to me about those times with sort of Ben and Eubank and Watson Collins, all these fighters that when the British, domestics, and you could get that again with Callum Smith and Billy Joe and Eubank Jr. and John Ryder and all that. You could do that again. you know, it's just getting these big fights made. That's tough. With no gate, it's really hard. So Buatsi yard is definitely one to make. But I think, you know, we all want the fans back, don't we? And we want them back financially to help make the fight, but also for the atmosphere that it brings. And fights like that, you know, the ones that fans are desperate to see, you know, they want to be at, don't they? So are we going to see that for the next 6 months? It's really hard. You know, at the beginning of lockdown when we talked, it was like, are we going to have fans back we're going to have sport back. Then it's fans. And then you thought, we're going to have, this could have been a test event. You know, we talked about this, first of all, at the Copper Box. Now we're in Milton Keynes. Could we get some fans in? You know, it's all gone backwards in that way. And we've got to adhere to the government regulations. And, you know, there's no fans at sporting events. And it's been stopped, certainly for a while. And we wait and see when that comes back. So I think Buatsi Yard is one for the spring or summer.
Okay, so some pay-per-views officially announced. Obviously, we had the Whyte Povetkin 2 one a couple of weeks ago, and Usyk Chisora more recently. We're waiting on the Joshua Pulev one, but satisfied with the pay-per-view schedule for the end of the year?
I'm delighted. I really am delighted. You know, it's been such a difficult year for all of us. I keep, Umar, saying to you, you know, health and security and safety and family comes above anything, you know, sport or anything. And, you know, the boxing world we're competitors, but we're close. I've spoken to Frank and Todd and PBC, and I've spoken to everybody more, you know, than I would normally probably. Yeah. And it's been great, you know, we're all in it together. Everyone's got the same sort of cards, you know, the broadcasters, BT, DAZN, Channel 5, you know, everybody's got to do their best under these circumstances, and we work very hard at Sky Sports to get sport back in. So look, it's really good when you get the box office events made, and I think especially at a time like this where, you know, with no gate, it's almost impossible to make the big fight. So, you know, I couldn't believe that Eddie got that over the line with the Whyte Povetkin first fight, and you know, I was very keen on Taylor Persone, so was Katie, so was Delphine, you know, but it was an expensive fight, and you know, I think that everybody sort of had to adapt, and to get that over the line without a crowd in there was terrific. Then that led to the rematch in November, but to do Usyk Chisora as well, and that looks like it won't be you know, fan attended either. So, you know, I think that's an impossibility now. And that was, we were talking about maybe we'd get, you know, a few thousand, a few hundred, something. If that's not, to make a fight like that where you were relying on the big gate at the O2, and that was a big gate, you know, Usyk and Chisora, and you know, they've all had to sort of, you know, look at it and see if it can work, and we've worked it. And it was when I got that message from David, he had one more chat with Derek, and I think Derek wanted to go and sleep on it, and you know, we all met up the next day, and it was socially distanced, of course, but that was great. It's great to get it over the line. It's a big fight for Halloween. Really looking forward to it. Derek's in terrific shape. You know, Alexander is a wonderful, special fighter. So yeah, can't wait for that one. And then Povetkin Whyte rematch. You know, will lightning strike twice? Immediate rematch. Dillian going straight in. All the questions. You know, was he obviously winning the fight, and then it just one shot? But could it happen again?
Too soon after a massive knockout?
Yeah, there's all of that. You know, there's all of that to look into. Immediate rematches sometimes go the same way, sometimes more dramatically, sometimes turn on their head. Look back to Collins and Eubank, and he outspooked him first time around, Steve, and then the second time he physically did him. But then you look at Lennox Lewis, twice losing to Oliver McCall. It took him 2.5 years to get back in the ring with McCall. McCall had the breakdown in the ring, but Lennox needed to bed time with Emmanuel Stewart. It was very different times. Then he went back in with Rackman, but he knew he'd messed around on the Ocean 11 set. He got to South Africa too late. You know, he blamed himself, and he wanted that rematch straight away. And he turned the tables on Rackman in a massive way. So I think it's up to the individual. I think there's a lot of people that can say, oh God, he's going to get beaten again because it's too soon, or you know, or he's really lucky to get this chance. So listen, it's down to the fact that Dillian Whyte is a great, exciting fighter, right? He's lost a fight, right? He wants to test himself again. We want to see it again. And you know what? He said to us half an hour afterwards, I want him back in the ring. So if he wants it, he's taking the gamble. He's taking this, and you've got to take your hat off to him. And if it backfires and he loses again, he's going to be in a really difficult position. But I think with Dillian, you know, he always does things the hard way. He lost to Anthony Joshua. He dusts himself down. He didn't just take, you know, easy fights. He's taken hard fight after hard fight after hard fight, even into the potential banana skin of Povetkin. he was winning the fight, and he gets caught, and he gets caught by a terrific punch from a terrific fighter. They go at it again. Happy days for the fans.
Bring it on. Adam, I don't know if you saw Bob Arum's recent comments to me about Lomachenko-Lopez. Did you see that?
Yes, I've heard about all of that.
Okay, so he's quite frustrated that neither
he
Sky
is.
or BT
I know
have
he
not
is.
picked up Lomachenko-Lopez.
It's a great fight. It's a great fight, Loma and Lopez. And there's other great fights out there which, you know, we've been offered, obviously. And you know, I look at Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, the Charlo brothers the other night. But I think what everybody's got to realise is that financially, these are very, very difficult times. And that goes across all sorts of businesses. You know, everyone is feeling the squeeze. Everyone is dealing with different things. You know, we have at Sky Sports, you know, huge amounts to look at before we even get to the boxing table. You know, it's the Premier League and what happened at the end of the season, and the contractual rights and all of that had to be dealt with. There's Formula One, there's the golf majors, there's all sorts, as well as boxing, as well as the Matchroom deal, as well as our box office events. So, you know, we can't just go out and buy every fight, or it's really hard. You know, as a fight fan, head of boxing development, and as my team are always saying, and Ed and Georgie's team that always say that, you know, we want the best fights on Sky. Of course we do. We all want these fights. We can't have everything from the jar. We can't have every sweet. We can't. And so, you know, we've prioritised, you know, what we're doing here in the UK. That's important. Sky Sports shows, big Sky Sports shows, and Sky Sports box office shows. That's the most important thing. And unfortunately, fights that are happening at sort of 3, 4 in the morning, as much as we, the fight fans, want to see them, as much as the trade love that, as much as everybody deserves to see that. And I had a conversation just last night, okay, about how much I want to do that. But it is, you know, we have budgets and we have restrictions as well, and it's a business, and we have to look at it, and we have to think, you know, we want to get these fights on Sky, of course we do, and we look at everything and we try our hardest, and of course we'd love to do Lomachenko. We did Lomachenko and Luke Campbell. It was brilliant. He's my favourite fighter. I mean, he's the greatest fighter in the world. I mean, Terence Crawford would argue with me, and Canelo and one or two others, but in my opinion, for natural talent, I mean, being 6 feet away and calling his fight with Luke Campbell, and I thought that was Luke Campbell's best ever performance, by the way. And Loma was just unbelievable. He was just he's on a different stratosphere. Would I like to see him fight Lopez? You know, it's a great fight. It's another great fight. Would I like to see him in with the likes of Haney and the others? Of course. They're all big fights. We want to do our best to get them, but we can't have everything. And I think it is frustrating, and I'm sure Bob is. But you know, if you hand it to us on a plate and say, there you go, just put it on, I'm sure we would. But
if they review their price, will you look at it, are you completely closed off to this?
Listen, I never close anything. I'm never closed to anything. We're constantly, we're in a boxing world, UMAR. We're constantly having conversations, you know. But ultimately, they've got a business. You know, Top Rank and PBC have got a business, and they've got to make money from these fights and international rights and everything. So, you know, what happens is if we're not interested, or we can't at this particular time, we always keep the lines of communication open. I'm very close to Araceli VAS at PBC, for example. I'm very close to Todd DeBurf at Top Rank. You know, I'm very fond of both of them, and we talk a lot. We've worked very, very well together on, you know, on Mayweather-Pacquiao nights, on big nights. You know, we were unlucky we didn't get the Wilder Fury second fight, but I still went out there. It was a great fight. You know, we're independent at Sky just because we weren't producing it. We talked about it. It's a huge fight in boxing. One of the great victories for a British fighter on foreign soil ever, what Tyson Fury did. Deontay Wilder and us, their teams, we go way back. You know, we put a lot of Wilder fights on Sky Sports. We put a lot of, you know, Top Rank and PBC, and you know, we've dealt with a lot of different people as well. We put the Golden Contract on. We've just done the World Boxing Super Series. You know, as I said, I want every sweet in the jar, UMAR, so do you. So does Eddie, so does Frank, so does Todd, so does Bob, so do all of them. You know, everybody wants that, and we can't have everything. I'm sure that, you know, I said to Todd, if there wasn't, you know, someone in your stable, who could you go and pick? You know, I wanted him to say an Errol Spence. I wanted him to say someone else, but he says, you know, he said, I just want to go, I want to be with you guys, you know, and look, everybody's got their own agendas. It's business. We work with Matchroom. Matchroom are our promoters. And you know, Eddie and I are versatile, and we're adaptable, and we look at, you know, different ways we can bring the best boxing to Sky. That's what's important, to bring the best we can at this time to Sky. And I think the most important thing is that the British fight fans are seeing really good fights from sort of 7 to 11 on a Saturday night, or in this case, a Sunday night. We try something different. We're going to get the main event or the two main events on Sky Sports main event. That's great. We'll hopefully get the football traffic as well. We'll really promote it, and we'll get some real eyeballs on it. And that's the key to build these stars. You know, then we want to see Buatsi again, because the casual fans need to be talking about boxing. That's really imperative. And I know the boxing fans, of which you and I are very much in that category, we want to watch everything. You know, the other night when we had the World Boxing Super Series, I had 3 devices. I was trying to keep up with what was going on with Jose Burton, with Charlie Edwards, with Josh Taylor. So much was happening. Charlo brothers later that night. You know, so much was happening, and it was really hard to keep up with it. We're fight fans. We want to see it all. Can we deliver it all on our different stations, in our different, you know, it's impossible. We can't do it. You know, it was very hard to make these Sky Sports box office events. So I think I'm really pleased with what Eddie's done. I'm really pleased with our schedule that looks like, if it holds up, you know, COVID dependent for the autumn and winter season, we're going to get some fantastic fights and nights. And there's no question we'll do international boxing again. It's just, you know, this is very difficult. We can't get over there. We can't put our Sky razzle dazzle on it as well. You know, that's another thing to look at, that, you know, we like to be ringside, and that's impossible at the moment. And also the other thing to think about, Umar, is other sports. You know, the schedule is all packed to Christmas. You know, there's a lot of other sport that's been backlogged, and we've got to sort of get that done, and in a way that prioritise anything new that we decide to go out and get. So, you know, we all have bosses, Umar, and as much as I fight for boxing all the time, I've got to say, yeah, you're right. You know, at the moment, let's concentrate on what we're doing here, and you know, maybe we get AJ over the line and Pulev announced, and Tyson Fury maybe can fight in Britain this year if he doesn't fight over there. But you know, we get those fights. Maybe they can do DUBOIS-JOYCE, and we all want it. It's just hard delivering it all.
I'm guessing the answer for Loma-Lopez is the same for Crawford Brook, if that happens.
You just reminded me. I've got a phone call to Cal. I've got to call him back. He says, "Adam, we need to talk." You know, again, we look at everything. We look at, you know, the way it's going. You know, what happens suddenly if something can't be delivered in Britain? Does that change things? You know, if one of these events that we've announced, or, you know, suddenly, for whatever reason, operationally, or there's a lockdown again and people can't get, I don't know.
Then you'll look at international events more.
Well, I don't know. Will America be in a better place? I mean, everything is so fluid at the moment that we can only take it a step at a time. So at the moment, we're concentrating on Sunday night, which is Joshua Buatsi, Chantel Cameron, Alan Babbage, and, you know, in great fights, and a fantastic night for, you know, for British boxing. So we want to really push that. We want to then move on to Ritson, and then we want to move on to Usyk and Chisora, and hopefully if we tick even sort of 7 or 8 of the things that Eddie and I have been planning for the rest of the year, then I think we've done brilliantly with Fight Camp as well. Frank's doing terrifically over on BT to keep delivering these shows. It's not easy. It really isn't.
I'm surprised how many shows there's been across.
Yeah, he's been doing so many shows, and I can understand his frustration with the Dubois and Joyce situation. We all want to see that, you know, and it's really hard to make these big fights. So we don't know. It's ever changing. So I'll never say never, but I do understand that there are businesses around the world that have got to move on, and everybody's got to be, you know, ruthless at this time, and they've got to do what's best for their own business. It's hard for us because everyone on the boxing team are fight fans, and we do, you know, we've talked about it all the time. We're going to get criticism for doing things and not doing things, and, you know, we want to be involved in everything. You know, you talk to my guys, James Tyne and John Beloff, Ed Robinson, all of the terrific boxing team. You know, they all want the best fights. Trust me. You know, they all want to have Loma and Lopez to work on. They all want to have Crawford Brook. They all want to have, you know, everything.
What about Mayweather-Logan Paul?
Mayweather-Logan Paul. Yeah,
what do you think about that?
Some more than others.
What do you think about that? Before we go.
What do I think about Tyson Roy Jones? What do I think about Mayweather-Logan Paul? What do I think about
Pacquiao-McGregor?
I knew you were going to say that. Look, it's an entertainment business. It's a sport business. It's an entertainment business. It's all about money as well. You know, KSI and Logan Paul. I mean, when I first heard that KSI was fighting Joe Weller, I didn't know who they were. My son had to educate me. Then I found out all about KSI and Logan Paul, and absolutely loved working on that promotion. Worked with YouTubers, something different. Do you know what? We never said it was a good fight. We never said it was just a good. It was a good matchup at that level. And I think if you just enjoy something for what it is, then...
But with Floyd?
With Floyd, it's, I love... Floyd is the greatest fighter to lace them up since Sugar Ray Leonard. I've worked with him since the beginning. I've loved it. He's been unbelievable. The Conor McGregor fight we did, it was you could see that, the mixed codes, there was a lot of... Everyone thought Floyd would win that, bar obviously the Irish and Conor, but you could see the attraction with that because it was bringing different audiences together. It was bringing someone like Conor McGregor, who's probably been the best interviewee since Nassim Hamed. It was bringing real personality to the table. So people were fascinated by that. Do we want to see it again? Do we want to see Pacquiao and McGregor? Do we want to see Mayweather and Logan Paul? I mean...
Was that harmful for boxing?
Spencer Oliver always answers these ones right. When I asked him what he thought about Tyson Jones, he said, you don't want it, but you're going to watch it, aren't you, like that?
Would you...
Of course, you're going to watch it.
Is it harmful for the sport, though? When you put a legend in with a so-called
I think because
YouTuber?
Mayweather's retired-ish, I mean, he's gone, hasn't he, from the sport of boxing. He's done. I think if he fights Logan Paul, and I left Logan a message. Yeah, why haven't you got back to me, Logan, about that? I left him a message asking him about it, but he hasn't got back to me yet. Look, it's ridiculous for fight fans. It's awful in one way, but it is captivating and is going to get eyeballs from a completely different market, as we know, because they're two of the biggest names in the world.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
And that's what it comes down to. And what I tell you what, and I was very sceptical about KSI and Logan Paul, but we went with it, and I'm glad we went with it because we offered a choice to a different sort of audience. We never dressed it up as anything it wasn't. It was never a big world title blockbuster or anything like that. It was two novice professionals fighting. And actually it was all about the build-up, and it was about still who was going to win. People like to find a winner and a loser in whatever level. I was blown away by Logan Paul as an interviewee. I thought he was fantastic. KSI, loved spending time with him and Vidal Riley, and the buzz around it, from the hoopla, and that's, then you think back to crowds. I mean, there was some real drive and buzz around that. And maybe it wasn't your trade fans, of course not, but you had Billy Joe on the bill, you had Devin Haney, you had boxing as well, so there was sort of something for everybody. I'd like to see, obviously, if these sort of, almost like absurd fights happen, you want to see a way of, investing in the sport as well. So you want to sort of maybe get, really good young boxing talent on or whatever. But you can never say never in this sport. Don King told me that many, many years ago. I spent some time with him very early on in Sky, and I remember him saying, amongst many other things he used to say, never say never in boxing. And it stuck with me, and he's absolutely right. I remember where I was when Eddie called me up and said, Kell Brook is fighting Gennady Golovkin. He said, Ad, you need to sit down here, mate. I said, no, I can take it standing up. He said, listen to this. You remember where you were when things happen, and whether they're right or wrong, and whether you should take these things, it's boxing, it's fluid. It's giving men and women a real opportunity. I was just talking to Chantel Cameron there, and, boxing saved her as a kid, probably. It certainly saved John Harding, and there's some phenomenal stories in boxing. And, if any of them have got a chance of making money and getting profile and, getting the opportunities, who are we to stop them in whatever way they're getting them? Do I like Tyson and Roy Jones as a fight? No, I don't. I remember Mike Tyson and Roy Jones as the great fighters they were. I'm glad it's sort of happening when they're both there and they're both at that sort of stage, but do I like it? Not really. Do I like Logan Paul and Mayweather as a fight? Of course not. It's ridiculous. But am I attracted to Floyd Mayweather as a personality? Am I attracted to Logan Paul? Yeah, absolutely right. Do I want to see what they want to do next? Absolutely right. Are they going to look ridiculous alongside each other? Are you going to watch it like, are we going to be involved in it? You just don't know. So as I said, never say never in boxing. We don't know, and especially at this time.
True. On that note, Adam Smith, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. Roll on Sunday Night Boxing, live on Sky Sports. And all the best, all right?
Cheers.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.